Hey, welcome to the Team Superdad podcast live. We are here with friends, family, Team Superdad members all around the world. We are dads creating the life we desire, not the life we feel stuck in. And as part of our whole mission and the work that we do in the areas of focus, fitness, finance, family, and fun, today we are kind of zoning in on the fitness area. But as I spoke with my guest, who I'm about to introduce, I became aware that there is a huge part of the finance subject in this story, the entrepreneurial journey that has seen the company Thriva grow from strength to strength. This business is all based around home health test kits. And their founder, Hamish Grierson, is joining me today. So I'll play the intro and then we'll get stuck into this. It's going to be a great episode. I look forward to having you join us.
Welcome to Team Superdad. Real dads creating their best lives ever. More time, more money, more fun. You are not alone. You're on Team Superdad.
Hello, Hamish. Good to have you here today on the Team Superdad podcast.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Johnny.
Yeah, brilliant. We were just getting to know each other beforehand, and I'll repeat some of that for the benefit of our listeners and our viewers. So if you're watching today, then please, you're on the live stream, might be on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Feel free to comment and share this around with your network. It'd be great to bring other people in. And if you're listening to the podcast, then thanks for finding us on whichever is your favorite podcast provider. Give us a review, especially if you're on Apple. Then those kind of reviews are really helpful. And remember, of course, to subscribe. We do these kind of informative and also entertaining podcasts in midweek, and then the more ridiculous, funny two dads banter on a Friday in the wrap up. But today, Hamish, we're talking about home health tests, which I first kind of became aware of the idea through The Biggest Loser USA, which doesn't do your business any justice, I'm sure. But in that show, they about 2 weeks into it, they send everybody off to get their blood tests, and then they come back in and it's all dramatic, and they say, yes, so you're a 38-year-old dad. You're clearly overweight. By the way, you've got 3 years left to live. You've got type 2 diabetes, and your physical age is more that of a 75-year-old. And then they're all crying. And I mean, it's kind of serious, but I think that is something that just pushes on people's consciousness about their health, and why all of us to get a better understanding of what's going on in our body is so absolutely vital. So today we're gonna jump into that. We're going to start with Thriva and what is this thing that people can do at home, what's it worth in their business. And then in the second half of it, we'll dive into some of the Thriva story, because it's so inspiring for dads to hear how you've created this business and how your love for it seems to just grow and grow and grow the bigger the business grows. So that's my introduction. Hamish, how are you today? It's good to have you on board.
Thank you very much indeed, Johnny. I'm all right. As a dad with 3 kids, one of them is 6 months old, who is not sleeping through the night, ever so slightly run over, truth be told. I absolutely have no reason to complain, though. Generally speaking, very lucky, fit and healthy. Most things in life are good. No reason.
What's the have you boys and girls? What are their ages?
I've got 2 boys and a girl. So the boys are 5, 2, and Annie, my little girl, is 6 months old. So a 3 under 5. If that is any consolation to anyone who's got that.
If I see you slapping yourself in the head whilst we're talking, I won't take it personally. I know that you're just just trying to get through the day.
Desperately trying to keep myself on track. Yeah, exactly. And for what it's worth, that the age of my first child is about as old as the company is, and I know we'll get back to it at some point. But there was a moment where, with a fairly new mortgage, a fairly new wife, and a decision to be made about starting a company where we were trying to persuade people to pay us to inflict some harm on themselves and bleed into a tube, with a lot of people thinking that we were absolutely barking mad. Yeah, they're very much looking forward to sharing a few of the insights over the intervening 5 years. But yeah, as you say, starting with, I guess, just what is Thriva, right? Maybe I can launch in with a bit of that. So a few of the basics of Thriva is a UK-based health technology company. We have a really simple ambition, and that is to help anyone to get a fairly regular, affordable, intuitive set of insights as to what's happening inside their bodies. And exactly as Johnny said, so we practically do that using some at-home test kits, and you collect a small sample of your own blood, usually, though we do sometimes look at things like saliva, and you post it back. One of our lab partners will analyze it. They're the same sort of labs that you get your NHS bloods run through. And then we take that data and do quite a lot of stuff with it. So we have one of our GPs comment on it. It's really easy to read in terms of the kind of graphing and the way it's presented. We'll show you not just what average looks like, but what optimal looks like, wherever there's good science behind it. We'll help you to understand what it means for you, given your goals. So let's say you're more interested in fitness as opposed to living longer, or sleeping better as opposed to having a baby. We'll zone in on the things that really matter for that particular result. And then for us, just as importantly, we'll kind of help you to understand, okay, what are the things that I can actually go and do tomorrow morning to try and have a positive impact on those numbers? And that's a part of the product called Health Plan. So yeah, I mean, I think in ambition, fairly straightforward. What's still crazy to us, in truth, is that most people, they just don't really have a direct connection to their bodies, right? We are still living in a very information-rich era about lots of the world around us, thanks to the internet and our smartphones, and yet, for the most part, rely on intuition, which can be hugely misleading as to what's really going on inside our bodies. And that doesn't actually need to be the case. And we do have the ability to start arming ourselves with some really powerful information. And that's something that we want to help with. And just to say, I guess, last part, as a company, we've got a direct-to-consumer brand. So if you ever Google Thriva, that's what you'd see. But we also now are powering third-party organizations, so actually hospitals, some GP surgeries, and we're working with the government on some projects where they want to get at-home testing as part of their offering, and they work with us as well. So I'll leave it there. There you go. That's a quick rip down of what Thriva is and does.
Yeah, and this sort of, it falls into the area, just like you mentioned there, about people taking more responsibility for their health, being aware of what's going on. I've just put a link up there. So thriva.co.uk, thriva.co will take you to there, and if you / Team Super Dad in there, the Thriva crew will see how many people we're sending to them. So that's quite fun for their marketing team to look at. But thriva.co will get you over to Thriva, and there's various different, depending on what times you hit their site. There's new offers for new customers as well. So you should definitely take advantage of those. But yet, in taking advantage of situations falls beautifully into the question about being responsible for our own healthcare, and not just expecting our bodies to keep going until something goes wrong. Because by the time something goes wrong, it's more than likely something's really gone wrong. But whereas the indications for that problem are probably you're able to spot them much more earlier, like, I guess, checking your breasts or checking your balls for cancer and stuff. This kind of testing gives people the ability to go inside their body and do those checks way in advance.
Yeah, and I love the metaphor, right? It's a bit like the skin is this really unhelpful sort of dark zone creator. You can't go and just, yeah, heart looks okay. Veins look okay. But that we are really, really bad at being able to connect with the sort of, I described it the other day as our biological truths, which sounds a bit pompous, but it's just this idea that you're right. We've got this stuff inside us that actually tells us a lot about what's happening. And it's often, it's the first thing to move. So we see it regularly where some of our customers, they'll go on a real health kick, or they'll stop smoking or something. And one of the first places that they'll see it isn't necessarily in weight loss, though obviously that tends to happen fairly fast, but they will see it in their biomarkers. And so on the one hand, you've got, there is a pick things up early reality to what we're doing. And we're very lucky that we've got lots of amazing testimonials around it working like that. And we've also got, people who are changing their lives as a consequence of something slightly broader, which is actually just kind of waking up. And this sounds really basic, and it is really basic, but it's also really important. Waking up to health as something that they can and should and get some enjoyment from engaging with. And it's that difference between people who sort of see it as someone else's problem. It's amazing to me that I used to be this kind of person. Right? I sort of had my moment of waking up to health probably in my late 20s. And I find it astonishing that I, for so many years, effectively thought that my body's reality was kind of someone else's problem, i.e. the doctors. And it just is a completely backwards piece of thinking, right? Our NHS is a wonderful thing, but what it isn't there in design purposes to achieve is to keep you out of the NHS, right? Other than some of the screening programs for cancers and stuff. It's just not a keep you well product or service.
It's like a last saloon in many ways.
Yeah, and they know that it is. And actually, to give them their dues, if it was just left alone to be that, I think it would probably be even better at doing that. Yeah. And they are alive to the fact that now is a great moment in time, because people have, I guess, become more aware that health information is there to be got at, and they want it. So, people are investing their own hard-earned cash in actually starting to understand this stuff. And yeah, I guess the NHS recognise that maybe it isn't going to be them that's able to solve that proactive, preventative, participative side of the health spectrum or journey. Yeah.
And just to put in to the conversation at this point, what are the kind of things that, we haven't actually listed this yet, what are the kind of things that that a home health test like Thriva, these biomarkers, what can we test for? What can we find out?
Yeah, so it's depending on how much you know about blood testing, a surprisingly broad array from a relatively small amount of blood. So,
oh yeah, good to mention that, isn't it? It's not like it's not like you take a shot of
vial.
You prick your finger, right?
Yeah, exactly. I haven't got one of the little vials, but it's 600 microliters of blood, so it's a very small amount of blood. And yeah, the very, 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 very large majority of people have no problem collecting it at home. So a full lipids or cholesterol panel. So both your LDL, which is your quote unquote bad cholesterol, and your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, but also your triglycerides and some of the ratios. So a full cholesterol panel, which typically has a really strong connection with cardiovascular, heart attack, stroke risk. It's those sorts of kind of mass population health issue dynamics. I think it's still true to say that cardiovascular risk is, or cardiovascular disease is the thing that kills more people around the world than anything else. Because primarily, unfortunately, we've evolved to become a rather more sedentary, poor diet society. Anyway, so cardiovascular risk. HbA1c is a marker for diabetes and pre-diabetes. So it looks at an average of your blood sugar over 3 months. That's the kind of snapshot that you get. So you get a risk of diabetes, or an indicator of risk for diabetes.
Which is massively on the increase in kind of middle-aged to older, middle-aged plus people. The rate
Absolutely.
of diabetes is going up and up and up.
Yes, I think, the stats are absolutely staggering. I think they think it's going to get to, if left unchecked, it will get to 1/3 of the population will end up as pre-diabetic or diabetic. It's
Wow.
just absolutely bananas. And if you look at some of the dietary drivers, it's probably not that surprising. Then you've got some of the sort of core vitamin and nutritional deficiencies. So vitamin D is a very topical nutrient at the moment because of its relationship to COVID-19 severity. Vitamin B12, iron, folate, full thyroid. We tend to find women are more focused on thyroid than men, but we on the male side have testosterone. We have, my brain's going a bit blank. This is where the tiredness and memory unfortunately crash.
I mean, it's some of the obvious illnesses that we all worry about: heart attacks, cancer, diabetes. Some of those vitamin markers you mentioned are all about mood, depression, energy levels, sex drive, testosterone, obviously, ability, folate, ability to get pregnant. These are everyday things that people struggle with, but sort of go, oh yeah, well, it's my age, or yeah, well, you can't expect to be, feeling too good when da 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 da. But actually, if there's an underlying medical, not even about a medical condition, there's just a deficiency in the body, let alone a suggestion that something's wrong, then by taking, by doing such a test, people can make step gains in their well-being, in their experience of life. And this is why I'm so keen to do this podcast today, and it's why home health tests are part of the fitness area of Team Superdad. And finding a UK-based company with flipping dudes like you in charge is actually really exciting, because that taps into my digital marketing background and my involvement with lots of digital companies there. So it's a powerful thing to be making available to people. And what I heard when you were talking about what people are able to do with that information. So on the one hand, I can see that it's a great comfort and a release to people to be able to find these things out, particularly if you have a history of cancer in your family or diabetes in your family. But the flip side of that is it can be a real good motivation. If you're trying to work out, you're trying to give up smoking, or you're trying to change your diet, how do you stay motivated if you can't see the difference on the outside? This actually gives you an indication of how your health is improving on the inside, which of course is directly linked really to your longevity, which if you're a dad and you're thinking about your children and grandchildren even, you're going to want to live a long time.
Yeah. Also, just to be be straight on the cancer front. So unfortunately, the science on the testing front at the moment doesn't enable us to test for the broad suite of cancers. It's very much on the roadmap. I mean, we have there's one particular testimonial which I'm very proud of, where one of our customers was testing for something unrelated to cancer, but found some pretty deranged results. They picked it up with the GP. The GP ran the tests and diagnosed early stage cancer. The GP was like, "What? This is a completely asymptomatic cancer, but it's really problematic, or can be. How did you find out?" And she was like, "Well, I just did this test with Thriva." So that you can find that some systems interrelate enough that you may find something that is correlated, but it's not the test set out to pick it up. So yeah, I don't want to pretend to be something that we're not there. And would love to be clear, and very excited for the scientific developments that are coming. Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much truth to the fact that people, they have to at some point change the sort of internal narrative, and appreciate that they are the ones that both benefit from and are penalized by their health reality, right? And it's I think the kind of single piece of learning for me that stands out. I'm not a medic, don't come from a medical background. I'm very lucky that we've got an astonishing team of clinicians and medics in our company, of course. Is that the body as a system is a phenomenally interrelated system, and the things that you will often see when you do something good sit across a variety of different systems within the body. So I, hands up, I went on a bit of a sort of happiness drive over the course of the start of this year. So I started it, I think, on the 2nd of January. And I decided to try and work out every day, to try and do some sort of fairly meaningful exercise every day. And I was previously doing it, running a startup and having 3 kids isn't particularly conducive to working out a lot. So I was doing it, and there goes my excuse. I was doing it once every couple of weeks. And I thought, no, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm going to force myself to do something every single day. And the number of things that showed up as a benefit were fascinating for me. From the obvious, better sleep, better physicality, libido is increased. It's just all of the stuff that happens that isn't necessarily directly related to the thing that you were doing it for, was amazing. And I saw some of the key biomarkers that I keep track of improve. For me, that it's just a part of the picture, right? It's a really important part, I think, but it's just a part of the picture that everyone should have as part of their daily lives. And I get that I'm completely and utterly biased in opinion here. I think in 5 years' time, this is just going to be the norm, right? Apple Watch, Fitbit, Jawbone, the sort of blazed trail around wearables and the information they give off. I really just see this as the next bounce of the ball. We know that people want to know more about their bodies. They want to quantify where they're at. This is just a slightly different lens on the same reality.
Yeah. I mean, I had a Fitbit. I loved it. I upgraded. I don't think Fitbit, maybe Fitbit would admit that the Apple is an upgrade, but the broader amount of information that I get out of my Apple Watch to my Fitbit. And that's been my journey. To start with, I was like, oh, my steps. Oh, how much I sleep at night. And now, or obviously, of course, my running and cycling and things. But now, with the apps that are available through my Apple Watch, understanding about my sleep and sleep deficit. You're a dad with young children, sleep deficit. You'll be like, oh my God, you're probably running at about 30% or something like that. But that's powerful in terms of relationships. I know, obviously, people who listen to the Team Super Dad podcast regularly will know about my divorce and my wife's health challenges and the impact all of that had on our relationship, my burnout and my mental health. But sleep, just as an indicator of ability to manage yourself, your business, your children, your relationship, how you respond to situations, how much fun you are to be around. These are, I guess, gateway bits of information that if you take that same concept, that same idea of knowing this helps me be better, that we start to understand, oh, my vitamin D is really low, my sugar levels. I mean, I'm just actually waiting for my first Thriva test to come back. I'm interested in my sex drive, and I'm 47 years old. I've just started a new relationship. It's interesting to me how that's going, basically.
And you know something, Johnny? There's an interesting sort of psychological sort of two-parter or back and forth there. So I had a really interesting conversation with my wife the other night, who herself is having some health challenges. And she's been speaking to some really excellent functional medicine doctors. And the commonality is stark. And it goes like this. Right. List of the realities you currently face. Okay. If sleep is on the list, fix sleep first, then sort anything else out.
Yeah.
Because there is there is anyone listening to this podcast is a fan of, I think his name's Matthew Walker, and he did the book on the science of sleep fairly recently, much to much to the appreciation, I think, of anyone who's ever been challenged by it. And there is nothing that doesn't correlate with sleep from a disease perspective. So sleep, it is, as he put it, incredibly resilient to the vagaries of evolution, right? If we could not sleep, evolution would have long since done away with the need for us to sleep. But we are absolutely reliant on sleep. And as soon as you start mucking around with it, the amount of fallout is pretty stark. Now, where I think the interesting back and forth is I know my levels absolutely inside out, because I've started a company and I have the great privilege of having done a whole bunch of testing over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So for me, actually, I know I'm all good on all of the key parameters that most people probably have as a question mark. And that really helps me when I do that little thing of, why am I feeling so buggered? Okay, well, I know it's not those things. So we're all good there. Then I think about, is my voice a bit scratchy? Yeah, okay, it's probably a virus or something bacterial. Or how is my sleep? Am I feeling a bit pissed off? Is it just tiredness? And 8 times out of 10, the little check-in of what is going, I'm tired. It's okay, I'm just tired.
Yeah. And
that is incredibly powerful, because what it actually ironically takes away is a lot of the what ifs. What if it's this? What if it's, could it be, I read about this thing, or maybe my vitamin D levels are, and you're just like, nah, not that. And therefore the confidence with which I can say, yeah, I'm just good at understanding that I'm just tired now, and that's all right. For me, it's been, this is sample size of 1. It's just really powerful. It really helps me to get on the other side of that mental state.
Yeah. And I can, as you're explaining that, I can see what's coming out of that is confidence in your day-to-day life, confidence in managing situations. And so much of being a man, being able to get on with the things that you need to get on with, comes from an inner peace, a confidence that I've got this under control. I can handle this. I can handle what's coming down the line. And so it is a new thing, explaining this to people and saying it's really useful to have. Is you've got to get it into their mind about, it's another cost in my life, it's another expense, but really the information that it gives you, and that peace of mind, that freedom, that confidence, you start to if you could put a monetary value on those things, you're like, actually this is as obvious a regular cost as having the heating on or having water, let alone paying for Sky or other things that don't actually give us that much back, apart from a fat ass.
Well, there's a hilarious kind of reality check that it's a sort of logical argument, so it ultimately doesn't win people over. But we spend more MOTing our cars than we do on our bodies by a massive margin, and we check in on our teeth at least once, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times a year. It's like, what, really? Like we've evolved for that to be the norm? Like, come on, like something's not quite right here.
The car one's good. How big are the queues at the car washing places, let alone the MOT places?
Yeah.
People spend 15, 20 quid a week, even a fortnight, maybe even once a month, but they're spending that money getting their car cleaned.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you take your body with you, right? You take and that analogy was historically used for your mental state. You take your happiness or unhappiness into the tent or the castle, right? It doesn't matter. Whether you have made a load of money or you haven't, you take your biological truth with you wherever you're going to be, right? And therefore, I as I say, fully get my own biases here, but I find it contributes to just feeling more clear, more certain, that I kind of know where I am, and that for me is a really good thing.
Well, and there's an interesting subject around this as well. And I experienced this with my wife when she was unwell, and which I'd love to hear your perspective on this, is that when you go to the doctor, even if you are ill, they have a range. So that it was a thyroid condition, right? So you go and get your bloods done. This was the experience with my wife, thyroid condition, and she was just within the kind of norm zone. But then through considerable amounts of research by me on the internet, doing the old Google Doctor thing and just finding forums, and you realize that her size and body weight and everything else that had gone on, actually for her situation, being at that level, it was clear that something wasn't right. But the parameters that the doctor and the NHS was able to work in, all they could say to us, well, you're in the safe zone, you're in the okay zone. And is that quite, it kind of fits back into what you were saying about the NHS is great to save you in an emergency kind of thing. But is that quite normal that we could fall within what doctors consider the norm, but actually for ourselves, we're outside of it. And that's why it's important for us to know ourselves what's going on in our bodies.
Well, there's a few strands there. I mean, look, we have an advanced thyroid test because we got when we launched our first thyroid product, we got inundated by people maybe like you or your wife saying, no, look, this is the reality. This is the kind of test you need to run. And then we went away and we engaged with some leading academics to really understand some of the science. And we put together what is, we think, a cutting edge test. And, are they making that available on the NHS? No, typically not. And there's a few parts to that. The average doctor can only be expert at, a certain number of things. Yeah. And there is a reason that what's typically called functional integrative medicine have emerged as fields, and they effectively are trying to appreciate that you have to treat the whole human in front of you. So back to that thing of sleep and stress being determinants of some of the health realities you might be facing, just as snapshot examples. A doctor isn't trained like that, right? They weren't designed systemically to be the providers of that kind of insight and care. So they aren't very good at doing something like that. But again, to give them their dues, they weren't asked to be that. Systemically, they weren't trained in that sort of area of specialty. And also the science is evolving all the time, right? And if you were trained as a doctor 20 years ago, functional medicine wasn't even on the horizon back then. Yeah. It always astonishes me, again, from a place of enormous privilege, having the wonderful work that the doctors all do. And I've got lots of friends who are amazing doctors. The average doctor is given something like a day's training in nutrition. Yeah. And when you think about the impact of diet on health systems in the body, I find that absolutely staggering. But equally, it's because they've got this absolutely massive broad church of other knowledge that they have to go and learn and assimilate. So yeah, it does happen. And I think what you're sort of seeing start to emerge is where there are, areas of real nuance to the science and to the medicine. Private companies are stepping in to devote the resources that they have and build up an expertise around that particular specialty, recognizing that it's just not fair to assume that our much loved GPs are going to be the ones to be able to do that.
Yeah, and this kind of technology and service actually gives them the freedom to say that without it being I don't know, a cop-out or an admission of failure. They actually can define their role much better and make these services available. Brilliant. So just to recap, Thriva, it just comes in the post. People take a finger prick, put a small sample of the blood in the thing and send it back to you. What happens after that? Yeah,
exactly. So it's about 12, 15 droplets of blood, something like that. And usually within about 48 hours, you'll get a ping from us to say, Johnny, your results are ready. And yeah, you log into your personalized dashboard, and then you'll see a comment from, so we still think that a GP and NHS trained is a really important person to have eyes on both the information you give us digitally, so any health background or, particularly egregious symptoms or whatever, and then a look at your blood test results themselves, and they'll look at both of those in tandem and then provide a comment on your situation. And then, yeah, there's a whole wealth of information about, okay, what is vitamin D actually doing in my body, to use the example we were discussing. If there is an optimal range, so not just what the average, to your question around lab range is, not just what the average lab range is, but what specifically is the optimal range for this particular thing, if there's science to support it. And yeah, I mean, depending on, what you want to do, you can either leave it there and be like, right, I've understood it, and, I'll come back to it another day. Or if you want to really, really zoom in, you can understand, okay, what are, for me, the small number of things that I can do to start improving this result? And that's based on the very latest, most cutting edge research. So everything's on the table, from mindfulness to supplementation to exercise, diet, you name it. We've got recipe tips, well, not recipe tips, recipes, like as in actual recipes, for people who are looking for an easy way to say, okay, well, how do I take a first step here? So it's designed to be, if hailing a taxi used to involve sticking your hand up in the air in the pouring rain, compared to what it's like pulling your phone out your pocket and grabbing Uber felt like the future, right? It felt, but it was actually just basically using a core technology in the form of GPS and putting a really amazing, kind of pretty game-changing layer on top. We're doing the same thing. We're taking a tried and tested piece of data, which comes out of the lab, and putting a game-changing layer on top of it to help you understand what it means and put you in the driving seat. We talk a lot about empowerment and having an adult-to-adult conversation with our customers, not an adult-to-child conversation. And that's our goal. We want to have people walk away thinking, right, I'm leveling up. I'm getting to grips with this. I'm clear on what this all means.
Yeah. That is exactly what got me excited about what you do, about getting my results back, and blimey, in regards to some of the stuff we went through, what is now 10 years ago, I think it would have been transformational in the miscarriages, in dealing with the fallout after that, in managing my own well-being. I think the pressure that we were under, if we'd have been getting tests like this done as part of our process, the counselling and the working things out, I think it would have been very powerful in helping us make some better decisions back in that time. And that's what everybody should realise from this, is it's about making powerful, effective decisions around something as fundamental to ourselves as our own well-being. Absolutely awesome. So that's Thriva.co. We love it here at Team Superdad, and we're encouraging people in the Hero Academy to get their tests done as part of almost like how are you doing? Like what's like top trumps kind of thing, looking at each other's.
I like that. Yeah, we haven't yet gotten a top trumps card printed.
So you can pull it out. What's your vitamin D? Oh, 84. What?
Yeah. LDL cholesterol 3.
Yeah. Ooh.
yeah, exactly.
So listen, just in the second part of this, I didn't expect to do this, but in my researching the business and having one of the founders of Thriva on to literally tell us what it's all about straight from the horse's mouth, I started to learn about your entrepreneurial journey, the growth of Thriva, how you've gone and got funding, at one level, but as you just alluded to at the beginning, how you got your wife to be okay with the idea at the beginning, and even that people might not have realized, but you did touch on, this wasn't something that you started because you had a medical background. You started because it seemed like a bloody good idea. And there will be dads, I know there is, because we talk about this in the finances section of Team Super Dad. Many men have business ideas, but they don't chase after it, or they have one business idea, but because it doesn't work out, they then think, oh, well, that wasn't worth doing it, and don't start up another business. You've had businesses before this. This is the one that's going gangbusters at the moment. I'd love to talk and hear a bit about some of that journey. Oh, and also I found out how tight you are as a family with your brother and stuff, which is something close to my heart as well. So that's what we're going to talk about in this sort of second section of the podcast. And
Johnny, this is a huge apology, not least of all to you and any folks listening. I've got a meeting that starts at 2:00.
Okay, let's one thing we could do, we could come back and do it another day. But just in essence, then.
Well, shall I try and do a real quick sort of potted?
No, don't worry about that. We can cover that. For a dad out there, for a man out there thinking about starting, they've got an idea in their mind, but they're thinking, I don't really know much about that, but I think it's a bloody good idea. I don't really know how to start a business, but I really want to. Feed into those guys to give them some encouragement that it is an option and they can go for it.
Yeah, I'm really, really passionate about this for a whole bunch of reasons. The first is that thing that you have in your head about entrepreneur, bold leader, fuck that, put it down. It's complete and utter rubbish from one end to the other. Leadership, like anything else, is a skill, and you'll pick it up if you're interested in it as you go along. Entrepreneurship is not a character type. I firmly believe that. What it is going to require you to do is to assimilate some knowledge about the problem that you're trying to solve. And the way that I frame it to any of the kind of younger and newer entrepreneurs that I'm talking to is around set yourself a very clear goal. And my personal suggestion is always, and I'm completely nicking someone called Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans heuristic here, but imagine what it would take to earn enough to pay yourself your current salary. Forget trying to build Facebook, right? The chances of that coming off are 1 in a gazillion. And it's also not necessarily going to give you that much more enjoyment than just becoming the master of your own ship with a team of 2, 10, 20, 30, So just get clear. What's it going to take to earn enough to pay your own salary back? Because if you can get there, then the opportunity to go and create Facebook or whatever it is that you see as the next big thing are, I can't even express the number, a trillion times more likely than if you try to set out and build Facebook from day one. Now, if you happen to be the kind of person that is just hell-bent on solving this thing this way, then you won't be listening to me anyway. So it's absolutely fine. You'll just go off and you'll find another path. Find the smallest first step that helps you to build confidence that you're solving a real problem.
Yeah. And that's the financial level you're living at. So that's your first goal, right? What can we do to
Exactly. And there's so much good stuff that happens on the back of that. Not least of all, you realize often, not always, but I can do that now. Okay, I don't need a team. How am I gonna leave my salary job is the opening gambits of 400 questions, right? And the answer is often you don't need to. You can get going with something in your spare time, providing you're willing to put your shoulder against the wheel for a bit. Very, very good topic. Could spend a lot of time all about it.
Well, we are connected now, and if there's the opportunity to discuss that, you're a very busy man, obviously, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. The important bit of today's conversation was about the home health test kits. There's other companies out there, but I encourage people to go and pick Thriva. Hamish,
thank you very much for having me, Johnny. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yep, awesome. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks there to Hamish. Guys, I hope you liked the podcast. Feel free to share and subscribe to the Team Superdad community. You can come and join in on that at teamsuperdad.com/network. Hamish had to jump off there. But what a cool thing. If you've not heard about home health test kits, that sounds bloody boring, doesn't it? But, it's like taking control of your health, understanding better than ever what's going on in your body, being able to head off conditions, everyday struggles, let alone conditions. But when you can really take control in that, in all those areas of your life, the confidence, the freedom and the motivation around some of your goals, fitness goals, giving up smoking, eating right, it's empowering beyond belief. We're going to be talking inside of the Team Superdad community about my results and about some of the other dads that have had their tests done. So come and get involved. It's teamsuperdad.com/network. That will get you into our group, into our free community. And of course, once you're part of that, there's all conversations about the opportunities around the Hero Academy and all the work that we do in there to support dads who motivated, modern dads who want to create more in their life, live the life they desire, not the life they feel stuck in, which of course, that's what it's all about. We're here to thrive. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And by the way, when I was doing my Thriva test, I used the Honey app and got a 50% off discount off the first test as well. So if you're in the Team Superdad group, that was shared as well last week. I'm not sure if the offer still stands, but they've got a variety of voucher codes floating around the internet. So you will get a discount on your first test if you go and look for it. And the 50% discount we posted in the group the other day. So good to have you here with me today. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Team Superdad podcast or the live. Take care.
This has been Team Superdad. Find us at teamsuperdad.com. Join the program and create the best life ever for you and your children. You are not alone. You're on Team Superdad.